Hola, peoples.
Hello.
Tonight we have a very special co-host. We're actually starting this Coven Talk as a series, and we are doing this with Miss CricketSong, Lunar Wisdom, and Sherry. Would you like to introduce yourself a little bit for the people who may not know you?
Sure. Hey, everyone. I am CricketSong of Lunar Wisdom, and I am a non-traditional Wiccan witch. And I don't know. I'm an author. I'm a mom. I'm a friend, a wife, daughter, sister. I don't know.
Okay, so tonight, and y'all, if you have any questions, you can go ahead and ask your questions over here, and I'm pointing over here because that's where my desktop is, and we'll do our best to be of service and answer anything that you may ask. But we are going to be talking about what you need to know before you start a coven or even join a coven. But we have all experienced coven work. We've all been a part of a group, whether it be online or physical, local. We have all had our very interesting experiences with the different types of personalities and the group dynamic. So we felt like it'd be great. This would be a great place to start. So what are the first things that you tend to ask people when you're, forming a coven? What's something that you really need to know, like, right away?
Go ahead, Sherry. I'll let you go.
I think for me, when we were, when I had the coven and we were accepting new dedicants into the program, we would ask, what books have you read? Do you have a particular pantheon of gods or goddesses that you work with or have a relationship with? How do you define witchcraft, magic, Wicca? Just to sort of get an idea of what they came in, so we could expect what they thought they were getting into.
Yes. So that's interesting. So when you asked, was there any flags, like, when they would express, like, certain books? Like, was there something, like, a book that they would say, you don't have to mention the book if you don't want to, but was there certain books that they were like, oh, well, I read this? And you'd be like, oh, no, honey, can't do it.
It was more because if they were brand new, because we considered ourselves a teaching coven. So we expected pretty new people to come in, but if they had only one author, just one author, and they read all of one author and nobody else, that was a flag, at least for me, saying that they were really, I felt, that they were going to take that author as gospel truth. Whereas if they had a couple of ones that I'd be like, ew, really? But then they had other ones that were a little more, I guess, serious. Then I'd be like, oh, okay. They have a pretty broad spectrum.
Yeah.
Right.
And Miss Melissa, what do you think?
Well, going back to our old coven days, we had a lot. It seems like we had a questionnaire almost of what we expected from people. It was so long, but especially for an online versus in real life coven, it is so easy for people to pretend to be someone they're not. So we had to ask a lot of pretty revealing questions as far as, how do you practice, define your practice, what does being a magical person mean to you? I think that was one of our questions, actually. And, and really do you, sort of dive deep into the person that they are and look for any, they answered a question one way, and then the question was pretty much the same but worded a little different, and they answered it in a completely different way to sort of, get the feel of if they were really legitimately wanting to actually be a part of a coven. You know what I mean?
You have to intentionally make someone uncomfortable just to see. You want to see them squirm, because you want to see where their challenges might be, or how they're going to react to a certain situation. So it's very interesting.
Did you guys do live Skype interviews too when you were interviewing for your online coven?
This is before Skype, so not really.
This was
this is a long time ago.
Oh,
it was 2002, 2003. Oh. No, it was a little later than that. It was 2004, 2005, wasn't it?
So then when they were really it was words. You were reading their words.
Yeah, it was through MSN Messenger. We had it was very interesting. Yahoo, I think, they had
then we had our own website, and we had a chat room in the website.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yes. It was back in those days.
That's really embarrassing.
And let me tell you, those days it was easy to pull the wool over people's eyes.
It really was.
Oh,
it really was.
No, I know it was.
Right. It was. But so why you want to start a coven? That's actually the first thing that you really want to ask yourself if you're looking, because a lot of people look to start a coven oh, it's gonna be fun, we're gonna have friends, and we're gonna have a lot of fun, we're gonna practice together, we're gonna learn, we're gonna do shit. So honestly, you really need to ask yourself why, because looking back, I think we can all agree why is don't know. It's just it's too much. It's so much work that you really have to define your why.
Yes, you do.
Yep.
Why are you even starting all this craziness to begin with when it comes to creating a coven? Because as much as it's amazing, and it is an amazing experience, it's a hell of a lot of work. A hell of a lot of work. It's not just throwing people together and expecting magic to happen. And I think that a lot of people, whether they're starting a coven or joining a coven, have this idea that you're all going to get together, and it's going to be like all the women in Practical Magic getting together and casting an amazing spell without knowing shit about anybody. That is not at all the way covens are, ever.
And if it is like that, then you're fooling yourself.
Right.
No one's being authentic.
No.
Right, exactly.
And honestly, if it is, if you could ever achieve that, you should be fucking proud of yourself, because of all of the different personalities and the different issues, the dramas, when you're connecting with someone to really create that group power, you raise it to cast, to get everyone in alignment, that's a chore. And so if you have that very distinct interconnectedness with your group, that's something special, and that's something that should be honored, and that's something that should not be taken for granted.
Right. And what I was saying is that's not going to happen the moment you guys first get together.
No.
You gotta work for that. And sometimes even I feel like in the moments when the coven, when Lunar Wisdom Coven was clicking like that, those moments are so fucking amazing. But I found, because of personal drama that people go through in their own life, it doesn't maintain, at least it didn't in our situation, for very long. I mean, those were the times when I was like, oh, God, this is great, this. And then the very next week it was like, what the fuck happened here?
Right. That's funny because, Melissa and I were talking about that not too long ago because, like you said, when those moments happen, they're amazing. And you remember why you started a group. You remember why you wanted to be a part of something special with other people. And then you fool yourself for a time, so you pull their weight, you pull whatever they're lacking, you make up for, and you're pulling them along with you, and it's not benefiting anyone. So again, like, you have to realize, like, it's a lot of work. You know, starting a coven, starting a group is a lot of work. It's not just magical work that you have to deal with. It's like, that's like rare, like the least of your worries. It's the personalities and all of that you really have to consider when starting a group and maintaining it.
And, you know, I don't know about y'all, but I feel like one of the things that Michael and I didn't think all the way through when we started our coven, and Sherry, you may feel the same way. You know, we were really nice to people. We were really nice to people that we should have said, do your shit or get out. And we didn't do that. You know, we didn't want to hurt people's feelings. We wanted it to be something where we all grew together. But we knew that there was one or two people in that group that was holding everyone back. And we really should have been like, pulled them aside and said, you know what? It's not working out.
Yeah.
See you later. So that's something, you know, as much as, yes, you are friends with these people, you're exchanging energy, you know, you have a relationship. But there comes a time when, especially if you are the leaders of the coven, that you have to look at it in a very realistic light and say, you know what, you got to go. And that's not something we were very good at that time. Now it would be different, but then we weren't very good at it.
Yeah, see, the problem that I had is I feel like there was times where I kind of had the intuitive feel that this person might not work out. But again, because we were a learning coven, and we took in people who either had no experience or who had experience but hadn't been practicing for years, so they wanted to start fresh. Where I was like, well, you know, I don't know. But because it was an established group at one time, you know, we had other members and we had a council within the coven where it was myself, the high priestess, my husband, the high priest, and then we had a council of other people to give us feedback, that I was convinced that these people should be given a chance because of whatever they had said in their interview, whatever they said on their application. When I should have said no, or after their first few meetings or through half of the year, I could see there was no progress being made, but the others convinced me maybe you want to keep them. Or there were times when they wanted to keep them and I wanted to keep them and they wanted to get rid of them, where I felt, well, you guys aren't really giving them a chance.
Right. I think that has happened to us as well.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's another distinction that you have to make, like, obviously why you want to start a coven, and then as well, what you're willing to let up on, if anything, and what you're willing, like, what is like, no, I cannot, this is what I'll accept, and this is what is not acceptable. So if anyone, you know, violates these, you know, these very strict guidelines, because I'd be very strict now, then you're gone. And it's not personal. It's just something that you have to set in order to have a working group and that, you know, flows well, which kind of gets me into, I believe, Cece, this is funny. And this is, so that if I started a coven in person, I'd choose the closest friends and then expand and choose wisely, 20 people max. And Laylokin was like, that's a big coven.
That's a huge coven.
I honestly would highly suggest not starting with close friends. Maybe like a learning circle, just like learning together, studying, and throwing ideas around. But a coven, don't start with close friends. Melissa and I started that way. And you learn stuff about people, and friendships do end, or they become very different because of the type of work you do. You have to constantly be around each other, and it becomes, I hate to say this, but it's more like a business in a sense sometimes, where you are working together, you have goals set, you have all these things to do, and so that's not always very beneficial to a friendship.
Yeah.
Right. And it's really hard and challenging to tell your best friend that they're not doing the work and they're not cutting it. You know, that makes it so challenging. And yeah, 20 people, oh, that's way too much. Like, you can start a circle, like Michael said, and you can have as many people in a circle as you want. And in a way, that's a good way to kind of get used to a group dynamic before committing to a coven. But when you get into coven work, I mean, 13 is pretty traditional, and to me, that's still pretty damn big.
Yeah.
That's a lot of energy to work with.
Yeah, we had gotten up to 8 people, but we found that whenever we hit 8, something would happen where we would drop down to 6, and then we'd get up to 8 again, and then we'd end up dropping down to 6. And 6 worked really well for us for a number of practical reasons, and for what worked out is my husband and myself, and then the 4 elements. And it just always ended up going right back to that for us. And that was a good number. It was enough people to start drama. Still.
Right.
And it was enough to really have this nice flow when it clicked.
Right. Yeah. I like 6. 6 is good. 13 traditional, yes, but that you start small, just because you have to interact with these people. You have to learn their energies. You have to learn to trust, and trusting 13 people versus 6 versus 2, that's different, 3, whatever. But it's hard to learn as a group when you have so many people that might not know what they're doing, that might have challenges with working in a group and raising energy and joining the group mind. So starting small would be best.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. Well, plus, working together, people can be solitary practitioners for decades and still not quite get into the flow or dynamic of a group situation. It is not the same at all. I mean, it's a completely different kind of energy. So, that's something you need to keep in mind, especially if you've never been involved in a coven, and realize that other people have never been involved in a coven as well. And it's definitely another good question to ask. Have you ever worked in a group situation? Because that is a whole different dynamic, And I would also say, before you start your coven, make sure you have all your ducks in a row. Make sure you have, you know what gods and goddesses you're going to be working with, what the coven rules are going to be. You would think that this is like duh kind of stuff, no shit things, but it's not as obvious as you would like to think it is, because people don't realize how structured a coven needs to be in order for that flow to really work.
Yeah, we actually were set up like an organization. We had a tax ID number, and we had bylaws. Bylaws. There were mundane stuff like, how often do we meet? Who's the president? Who's the vice president? Who's the secretary? Who's the treasurer? Mundane stuff like that. And then there were the whole, hey, yeah, I have that book. We used that book as a template. It was the best thing in the world.
That book is awesome.
Yep. That's the best book. I recommend that. And it's still sitting on my shelf, although I'm ready to burn it now. But
when you're expressing bylaws and all in organization,
Yep.
this like popped into my head,
Yep.
and this is an awesome resource for anyone seeking to create that, and it's fun. It gives you different ideas on how to interact and socialize and understand your group dynamic, and how to have fun with your coven, how to do all the stuff the bonding basically. Which is important, y'all. It's very important. You can't be a part of a coven with people you don't trust or you don't like. So, yeah, another good thing you could ask your when interviewing is, are you a single child? Are you solo?
Right.
Because that, and not to say that people who are only child are automatically set apart, but there are a lot of things that go in with people who are the only child you have to consider for a group dynamic, because it might be very overwhelming for an only child to all of a sudden be thrown in with 20 other people. And like, oh shit. It's hard.
Definitely, well, just think about any kids, any friends that you had, or if you work with any kids in any way, and you can always tell the only kids, the only children from the children that have brothers and sisters, because the kids there, or the only child, don't understand that all of the toys are for everyone, because they don't have that. They don't have to share their toys with their parents. They're not exposed to that. So, and the same thing that goes as they grow up as an adult, they're used to, some, not all, but they're used to a, single focus, both parents focused on them, their focus is on their parents. It's not really a group flow. Definite, distinct levels of authority there. So when someone like that gets into like any kind of organization or coven or group, it can be very challenging to understand that you share all the toys in coven work. You share all the toys, you share all the energy, and it takes getting used to. So it definitely wouldn't be something that would totally put me off of someone, but
right.
It would someone I would keep an eye on to make sure that they are okay.
I used to ask the people who would come in for an interview, the possible dedicants. I would ask them to give me 5 words that best describe them. What's their best qualities? 5 words to describe them, and then 2 things that they want to change about themselves. And can I tell you, that was so telling when they gave me the words, because then at that point, regardless of anything else they said, that was like the kicker as to whether we wanted to move forward with that.
I bet. That's interesting. I bet. And these things are good to know, y'all, because if you're very certain, and I'm probably going to be offensive right now, because I really think a lot of people nowadays lack what it takes and to really create, run, maintain, and start a coven. And the reason I say that is because, and from my personal experiences with other people saying they practice and they actually don't practice, a lot of people lack the very strict nature that is necessary to create that coven, because they don't have a very sturdy foundation in their own practice. And so that's required of you when you decide that you want to start a coven. You are going to be seen as some sort of leader because it was your idea. So yeah, a lot of people, and what that means is if you want to start a coven, you best get your ass out there, educate yourself, take up mentorship, read books of all sorts, and interact with people and learn.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. Don't cut down. Okay, you can do whatever the hell you want, but I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to have issues with your coven if the only thing you know is the shit you've learned off of YouTube. Okay. YouTube, well, yes, we are on YouTube and we feel like we give out pretty good quality information. Do not just watch our show and think you can, start a coven. I'm going to tell you it's not going to work. You need to read books and you need to practice witchcraft. And I don't mean lighting a candle in your mind. I mean, you need to work with herbs, you need to work with crystals, you need to figure out what your craft is about and put it into motion and actually do it on a regular basis and not just once during the full moon.
Yeah, no kidding. Because if you're the leader, or even say you don't even say you're the leader, but say you're the facilitator, they're still, your coven members are going to look to you as an example. And my biggest thing is lead by example. I was like that in the mundane job place. I was supervisors, I was managers, and I would tell my employees that I will never ask you to do something that I won't do myself. If that meant cleaning the toilet in the ladies' room, if I've asked you to do that, it's because I've done it. And I use that same philosophy within my coven. If I'm asking you to do this assignment, to try this spell, that means I've done it. And I want to talk to you about it. I want to explore this with you. I mean, I'm not going to sit down and read Scott Cunningham, not saying that he's not good, but I'm not going to just take what I've learned from Scott Cunningham and not practice anything and say, you guys go do it. I'm not going to do any spell work. You tell me.
Exactly.
No, it's not about that.
Watch out, y'all. CricketSong is a boss-ass bitch.
I am.
I love that phrase because I've used that phrase so many times in managerial positions, and I truly believe that as well. I'm not going to do something, I'm not going to ask you to do something that I won't do. Because that's crap. That's bullshit. And in a coven, it is really bullshit because everyone has to put in their energy. Everyone has to put forth their, work ethic into it in order for a coven to really do what a coven is supposed to do, and that's create magic.
Right, and I think it's more, it's important on all levels, but when you're working with magic, when you're working with power, you can't, especially as someone who is either leading the group or whatever, but you can't expect anyone else to do the work when you haven't done it yourself, because especially if you're leading, because you need to be able to feel how that person, you have to gauge where they are, how they did it, how it worked for them. You have to be able to understand like where they're at in their practice, so you can give them tips on how to perfect it, how to be better at it, and tell them where they're succeeding, where they're excelling. You have to give that positive reinforcement, but also understand as a coven, your goal is to expand, to grow, to be a better practitioner, not just as a group, but as an individual, as also. So you have to do the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. 90% of my coven work is showing up. Let's see. So how often should a coven practice, and how often should a coven meet?
We met once a week.
Yeah.
And I know there are covens that meet once a month. I know there are. I just don't, for me personally, I don't get how a coven that only meets once a month can get the energy flow that you could from once a week.
Right.
I mean,
Well, not like that. You would have to do so much in that one. It would have to be an all-day meeting just to get anything accomplished if you met once a month.
We met once a week, and we would meet from 7 to 9 at least. There were some nights that we'd go till 10. And then we started shifting the time earlier so it wasn't so late because people had to go to work the next day. But, yeah, every week. Although, don't even get me started about commitment. Because I took attendance at my coven meetings. Because in the bylaws, if you missed so many, you were brought before Coven Council and your membership was evaluated. But, yeah. Nobody has
Right. Well, I mean, you have to be strict. Well, I guess we're all in alignment here because we crack that whip, because you have to be strict. You have to understand that it's so important for everyone to be on the same page and everyone to flow, and there's all sorts of personalities, so you have to have a very strict guideline.
It's not a hobby.
No.
It's not a hobby.
Exactly.
No. I also would suggest, once a week. Once a month, this is, I don't know, the only time I guess I could really understand once a month is if you have like an online group where you're connecting there, talking about what you're doing that day or whatever, that one time. And even at that, you miss out on the personal experience, the interaction, the energy play, and all of that. And when you do that, I would even say it would be limited to like very experienced practitioners who have formed a coven, who know all of that, and who have understanding of each other, who are easily able to connect in a group dynamic. That would work best, once a month. But still, you miss out on the beauty of group and coven work when you limit yourself to once a month. That's, again, my personal...
Yeah, in my online coven, we meet once a week, too.
Right. Well, I could kind of understand it if it was a coven that's been together, the same people for several years.
Yeah.
And on occasion, just meet once a month, because at that point, come on, y'all are used to working with each other. But those covens are rare. I'm just going to tell you right now, those covens are rare. And honestly, I kind of, in a way, I feel like we're almost like, don't ever start a coven. It's not worth it. But I'm not. It is totally worth it when you get the right people. I just feel like a lot of people, again, are disillusioned and thinking that coven work is super easy and it's just getting together and making magic, and it's not. And so don't think that we're trying to tell you not to be in a coven or to form a coven. We're just telling you, be very realistic about your coven work and about forming a coven.
Be ready to work.
Yes.
And
yes.
Be ready to have time and energy and intention to put to. It's like birthing a baby. When we birthed the coven, it's like birthing a baby, and that coven is your child. So if you think you're going to be a weekend mom or dad, or you're going to be a once-a-month mom or dad, that baby isn't going to thrive, and I'm telling you, Child Protective Services is going to come take it away.
Yes.
Well, and y'all, it takes so much to create a coven. So when it hurts, when you have to dismantle it, it's very... I'm not even going to say that. It just hurts when you have to take it away, when you have to get rid of it, or when it dissolves. It's a very painful process, because not only did your child was taken from you, and not only your child, like a group, but there's so many other things that are taken from you when you have to let it go and really like blow it up. Pretty much.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we had to do. Let's blow it up.
Burn it in the
and
fire.
And that's kind of something that you have to also take into consideration before starting a coven, because it might not work, and chances are it won't work. You really are. True. Like, most I can't talk, y'all, but really it's probably not going to work. So you have to be ready and able to accept on some point that you are going to have to get rid of your child.
Right. Well, everything that is birth, everything that begins has an ending. So even if it's a beautiful, wonderful experience, at some point your coven is going to end, whether it's, longevity or people moving or it's just not working in general. So that's just something that you have to realize. The thing is, it's a lot nicer when the coven ends because the baby grew up and moved out of the house willingly than it is having your baby stripped from you. So, you would much rather have a healthy child grow into a healthy adult and move on their own, free will, instead of having a poor sickly child that's taken away from you because you didn't treat it right.
Or,
you know,
you had to kick that child to the curb because all they were doing was sitting there eating your food, drinking your stuff, and not getting a job and living off of you. And you're like, yo,
Well,
you're 35. You need to go get yourself.
right.
You know, and then that brings, you know, up a lot of other things, because when, like, that situation, you also deal with that mental dynamic where you're like, what did I do? Like, this, where did I go wrong? This is my child, and what did I do? What was my part in this? And I feel bad about myself because of all of this. This is I birthed this child. I took care of this child. This child has grown. This child is an extension of me.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't they see things the way I see them, or even not the exact same way, but why isn't their ethic or their work ethic, you know, dynamic and all that? Why isn't it similar? Why are they lazy? I'm not lazy. I never taught them that.
Right. Well, it's kind of like you have this baby and you've only fed it good food, healthy food, and while you're, you know, kind of busy helping people and stuff over here, the babysitter comes in and gives them candy all the time, and you can't understand why your kids' teeth are rotting out and they're getting fat because all you're giving them is healthy, nutritious food, and it's because while you aren't looking, all the rest of the caregivers are like, sure, you can have this whole entire, 1 pound bag of M&Ms, dear. And that's what it's like, because you're feeding this coven, and giving this coven all that you can to make it prosper and grow, while everyone else is feeding it crap.
Yeah, they have bad friends that they met at school, and they're hanging out behind your back, and you don't know what those friends are doing. Bad associations.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Even though you told them not to hang out with those people.
Right.
No, you don't know. They're really good people. I've seen their parents. No, they're not.
Right.
If you're going to continue to hang out with those people, then you pack your shit and you get out of my house, because you're old enough to make your own decisions.
Right, exactly. So that's why it's important to, as much as like my mom has all the best intentions in the world when my daughter goes to her house and she gives her everything she could possibly want, it's not good for her. So and that's someone who's super close to me. Obviously, it's my mother. But, that's why we say it might not be the best idea to make your coven up of all your besties, because while your besties may have good intentions, they don't always see things the way you see things. You want a coven to be of like-minded people with the same work ethic as you. So you know that no matter who's got the baby,
that baby's
you're
safe.
feeding it healthy foods and putting it to bed at their bedtime and not letting that baby stay up 2 or 3 hours past their bedtime and everything else. You want to, that's the kind of dynamic, that's the ideal dynamic that you're searching for.
Right.
So,
and I agree with the friends thing. I mean, because here, say even your friend has the same work ethic. Maybe you're both like-minded. There may come a time where your best friend in that coven doesn't get along with another coven member, and you, as the leader of the coven, you're going to be put in a really tough position. It may come to the point where it's going to be one or the other. And what if the best for the coven is not your best friend? How are you going to feel telling your best friend that they have to leave the coven because it's not working for the whole of the group? And how is that going to affect your relationship with that friend? Are you really willing to jeopardize a relationship that may work for you personally? You guys may get along great, but what's good for you individually may not be good for the group. That would be tough. I wouldn't be able to do that.
Right. And with that scenario as well, like, as you grow as a coven, if it lasts more than 2 days, as you grow, you have to also realize that each member is going to grow differently. Their skill sets are going to enhance, and some are going to be stronger than others. That's just a fact. What if your best friend is stronger than you in a skill that you're not? That could create jealousy. That could create, and not just with the best friend, but other people, but when we're talking about friends, that can create a very distinct and separating experience. And that's something you have to also take into consideration, because power is power, but when it's your best friend, someone you really supposedly care about and love, and you're seeing they have all this stuff and you don't, you can create that jealousy, and that jealousy is not good for the whole.
Yeah.
Right. In fact, things like jealousy are coven killers. Let me tell you. Things like that are so detrimental to your coven. So what you really want to do, make sure you have your shit down, and what your ducks in a row, what you want to accomplish with this coven, your bylaws, and all that. Make sure you know what you're going to do. And you want to vet the people that you are wanting to bring into this coven. And even though, like most covens, these people are not really initiated until they've done the whole year and a day work, this is your coven still. I mean, these are the people that you're working with. This is the people that you expect to be initiated. So, it's going to be kind of rough when you're going to have to, remove some folks. Because I promise you, even when you vet, and I think Michael and I even did tarot readings on each person that applied, and everything we possibly could, both magically and mundane, to see if these people were going to work out, you're still going to get some bad apples, some people, and not necessarily even bad, they just don't fit, so you're going to have to deal with that, and you need to have a plan in action with your co-creator, your high priestess, high priest, whatever, that's helping you, how to handle that, how to handle the people that don't fit, how are you going to, like Sherry said, she had, a coven council, and they would reevaluate the membership, something. You're going to have something like that in place so you can deal with people in a peaceful kind of way. It's never that peaceful, but nobody likes rejection. But, a very streamlined way anyway.
Yeah, you can't please everybody all the time. So feelings are going to get hurt. And if you're going into creating a coven thinking that feelings will never get hurt, then don't go into that coven, because whether it's your feelings or whether it's someone else's feelings, and as the coven leader, you're always going to be the bad guy.
Right.
You are always the bad guy. If you can't handle that, then don't even start.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why,
if you're going to be the coven leader, you better thicken up that skin of yours, because you are going to be the villain in every scenario whenever anything happens that is not in,
right,
cohesion. Everyone else.
There's a couple things I want to address, because I know we have to close soon-ish, but that's so true, and that's why it's very important to have like a mission statement, a goal, like something that what your coven is, like to express, because if you have that, then at the end of the day, it doesn't necessarily matter what each individual, it does, but what they do, what they say, everything is aligned with that mission statement. If it's going against whatever, you say, this is what we're here for, this is what we're here to do. That you always, at least for the leader, even though you're going to look, as a bad individual, but you can say in your heart of hearts, I'm aligned with the mission statement, this is what I have to do. You detach in a way, take out your personal, friendships and, relationships that you build, and you realize, like, as a group, this is what's best. And my heart is in, for the long haul, the coven, the whole. I love everyone. I accept everyone. But you got to go, or you need to shape up because it's not aligning with our mission statement. Solaria is said, growing up, I was always made to scrub an immaculate house. It burns you out sometimes. You need a balance of fun and discipline. I know we've said, like, all this, like, it's not negative, really. It's just, like, it's a lot of work to start a coven, but coven work can be so
very
fun.
Realistic of coven work.
It can be very fun and very liberating. So my question for y'all is, if you want to share your personal why or whatever, but would you start a coven again? And what's your why? Why would you start a coven again? Like, what? Yeah, why?
I'll go. I'll let Sherry contemplate for a minute. Yes, I would start a coven again. I would rather it be a real life coven than an online coven, I think. Because I do enjoy that group dynamic. I do enjoy that group magic. And I do like to interact with other witches as, a group and create magic together. And I feel like it would be beneficial and helpful to everyone in that group as far as keeping your practice fresh and new and exciting. I would take a much different approach this go around than we did last time. And you would have to be there with me in real life to do it, Michael. But other than that, yes, I really wouldn't mind starting a coven again. If I had the opportunity and the people, then for sure I would definitely. Carrie?
What would I do? I would not start a coven again, but I might join an existing coven. The reason is I don't want the sole responsibility. I don't want to be the bad guy anymore, but I'm willing to be a part of something that people would be doing. I would be very selective in the coven I chose to join. I'm part of an online coven right now with only 2 other women, but actually we've met in person a few times.
Oh, nice.
So that's working for now, but there's some dynamics with that need to be worked out a little bit. But and again, that's a teaching situation. So instead of going into something where it's teaching, I'd like to work with more of a partner or partners. So for me, that's sort of like my goal right now. So if I could find people that have an established coven that are looking for members that I feel I'm at least equal or they're more advanced, that would be cool. If I could find a coven of more advanced witches or witches practicing something that I'm not familiar with, where I get to be the student, I get to be that newbie type person, I think they would be interesting. And that actually just thinking about that makes me kind of excited. So, I mean, I would do that, but I wouldn't, at least not at this point in my life, want to take on the responsibility of starting.
Right. That I kind of feel the same way. I would definitely consider starting one, but it would have to be the perfect setup, and I'd be very, very, very selective. And I do also feel like it has to be physical. I love group dynamic. I love being a part of a coven. I love being a part of. I just get goosebumps and all just thinking about it. But I love that experience because you shed the physical self really, and you channel the witch, and you connect with everyone, a part of that group, and you become something more. And at that time, you are all a part of each other and a part of divinity, a part of spirit, a part of something else. And so that feeling, that connection is so rewarding. And I would also love to be a part of a group, and I don't care how it sounds, but that is more advanced, because I love teaching, I love sharing with all of you, but I need to grow as well. In order for me to help you and to be of service and to share different things, I need someone who can do that for me. And I want that. And I crave that. Because I feel that you get to a certain point where you just need someone else who can, like, hey, I'm going to teach you this, or hey, we're going to learn this, and you don't know anything about it, or you're like, oh, this is a new form of magic, or this is a new form of something that I can do, and I've never done it. This is cool.
Yeah. Right.
I want that.
I would at least, I definitely would not be involved or start a teaching coven, and probably if I wasn't, I wouldn't want to teach. I think it would be so much fun to start a coven, even if it's with people who are just also on my level, but we explore advanced, like all learn together more advanced magic, more advanced, that would be amazing. But yeah, I definitely agree with both of you. I do not want to teach in a teaching coven ever again. I mean, I think it's because all three of us are in a teaching position in many ways, in many parts of our lives, even to this day. And whenever I would much rather have a coven dynamic where it's all the adults, where I'm not the only adult at the kid table. I know that sounds horrible, and I don't mean that in an offensive way. Just that, the adult that monitors the new folks. I don't want to be in that position anymore, I don't think.
Right. So
at least not anyway.
Well, in order to kind of like come to a close, I guess, basically what you need to know before starting a coven, it's a lot of fucking work. Don't do it. And really find your why, understand why you're wanting to form a group, and understand that it's a lot of work. And it's going to hurt, because you deal with a lot of different personalities, and your feelings are going to be hurt, but it's so much fun. When you have the right mix, if you make sure everyone works together and does their shit, it's a blessing. It's so much fun. Is there anything else that y'all would like to kind of like cover or express about, what people need to know and be aware of before they start their own group?
I can't think of anything myself.
Yeah, me neither.
Alrighty, y'all. So this is going to be a series. I don't know how often we'll do this, but when we get inspired, we will come together and we will have Coven Talk. So if you have any questions, utilize the comment section, blow it up, ask your questions. We will definitely try to be of service and answer or save some for our next show. Hopefully you enjoyed our ramblings. Be sure to check out Lunar Wisdom, CricketSong. But until next time, y'all, peace.
Bye.
Bye.